listeners, and welcome to the Downright Upright Show, the place to go to hear out loud and proud what Minnesotans are thinking, and I am your host, Philip Anthony. I'm so glad that you could join us today, and I hope that everyone listening is doing fantabulous. And Jen, just so you know, fantabulous is a combination of fantastic and fabulous put together twice as nice.
It is twice as nice.
You don't have to say both words. Isn't that fabulous? It saves time.
It's fantabulous.
It's fantabulous. My super special guest today is professional vocalist and actress Jen Burleigh-Bentz.
Hello.
And I just want to welcome you to the Downright Upright Show. It's such a pleasure to have you.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, you look great, by the way. I didn't expect to have this video ready for today, but here you are, and you're looking the best.
Well, thank you.
You bet. Now, on all my shows, I always like to start with foundational questions, you know, about the guests' beginnings and, you know, where they grew up, went to school, and any other added tidbits they want to throw in. So would you indulge me on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a Scotty. I'm from Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I grew up in a small little town. I was in Ellsworth, Wisconsin until I was 9, and then I moved to Baldwin, Wisconsin. Big upgrade. It was at least 200 more people in the town.
That's a big upgrade.
It's a big upgrade.
Yeah.
And I graduated from Baldwin-Woodville High School with a class of 77. So a small class size and, a small school. It wasn't a country school. I always like to tell people who don't know where Baldwin is, it's 35 miles east of St. Paul, so it's barely in the border, but it is 20 miles in the border. So St. Paul, Minneapolis was always our urban area. So when we went to museums or went to shows or anything like that, St. Paul, Minneapolis was our twin cities. So we kind of considered ourselves the metro, even though, you know, we were very far, far, far beyond the metro at that point.
Yeah. Well, full disclosure to the audience, I have to say this. I was at Pride. It was Golden Valley Pride. And I was walking, and you were on stage singing, and I literally just stopped in my tracks. It was just amazing. And we listened to your performance, and then later I got to meet you. And I was like, that was that, you know? And then here you are on my show. So thank you for doing that. I mean, it's such a pleasure to have you.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. I mean, that day was amazing, and it was lovely to meet you.
Yeah.
It was a fabulous event, actually. The Golden Valley Pride is really wonderful.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe all the vendors and all the music. It was crazy. But yes, I'm so happy to be able to be a part of it.
Thank you. And on behalf of the LGBTQ community, we love you. Thank you so much for doing that. And by the way, did you have any training in singing? Did you go to a specific school, or was this just a natural thing for you?
You know what? My mother played guitar. And so from the time I was 3, she would play and we would sing, my sister and I. And so my parents are very religious. And so we went to church 3 times a week. And so as a 3-year-old, I sang my first solo. I am a promise. I am a possibility. I am a promise with a capital P. You know, I had to do the emotions. I had to make a P as a child.
Oh, my God.
I'm moving my arms, people, when I say I had to make a P. I'm actually making a shape of a P out of my arms. But yeah, so from the age of just a youth, we sang a lot. And my mother is the oldest of 11 children, and her family were all very musical. So every time we got together for any sort of a holiday, there would always be a lot of harmony. They'd all pull out their guitars. We'd sing a lot of John Denver and Carpenter songs and all sorts of... Oh, so many tunes that I don't know why I know except for
I love both of
because
those
the family.
people, by the way, that you just mentioned.
Hello, Leon Russell. I mean, all sorts of
boy.
wonderful stuff. But nothing was ever schooled. I was never schooled in anything vocal until I was in high school. And when one of my teachers, Janet Hansen, who was my choir teacher and the music director of our theatrical productions, she sent me to voice lessons. And she sent me to the University of Wisconsin, River Falls, to Jean Waltz. And the most wonderful woman. She was classically training me, but she was training me in how to create voice, not just classical. So she, I had a semester with her basically once a week, and the school paid for my lessons. And Janet arranged that. And after that, she and my theatrical drama teacher there, Roxanne Joaquin, the two of them really helped me to look for scholarships for college. We had done Anything Goes at the school, and they cast me in Reno Sweeney. My first big role in a musical was my senior
the lead?
year. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And because of that, they said, you know what, she's got something that we see, and we want her to continue with it as much as possible. So I went to school at the University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire, and I was a music major when I started. I ended up with a BS, which I like to tout often, that I have a BS degree. I have a BS, Theater Comprehensive
Science,
major.
Isn't it?
Yes, so as opposed to a Bachelor of Arts, I have a BS, Bachelor of Science, Theater Comprehensive major with an emphasis in music. So that was where the education aspect came in for me. But truly, I think the education was through performance. So I started working in, at Valley Fair when I was 19, and doing summer theater when I was 20. And I worked at Williamsburg, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, and did a show there. And then the next year at Opryland, USA in Nashville. And then the next year in Ohio, I did a live theater show, Nonsense of all shows. And
I remember that one.
Yeah, that show's a fun one. But just going up from there, consistently outside of school. So my schooling was very important, I think. I very much value it. But the schooling outside of an educational facility was really where I think I learned, A, how to live as an artist, and B, how to network as an artist.
Well, to be on stage, I think, is the best education, don't you think? Just to actually be there and and grab the energy from the audience, right? I mean,
it's huge. I also think that because of the educational aspect that I had, we had to have a rounded education. So it wasn't just about being on stage. And I find that to be very important in the way that I live my life in the theater. I had to design sets and lighting. I had to be a costumer. I had to be a backstage set mover. I had to be a stage manager. I had to direct, and all of those things in college.
Right.
So you get a very well-rounded idea of the work that everyone else is putting into those productions, not just the person on the stage, and how to appreciate them, and how to go through the rest of your theatrical career appreciating them and learning from them just as much as the audience learns from the actor.
Mm-hmm. And as you moved along in your career, did the nerves backstage get better, or did they get worse, or does it depend on the show? Or
It so depends on the show. It depends on where it's at. Depends on how much rehearsal you've had. There are definitely times when I have run off stage for an exit and quickly picked up my script to look at the next scene, because I was just so wanting to make sure I got it right. And I was not sure if it was right because there just wasn't enough time for me to feel like it was in my body and to feel like I was confident that it would be there if I didn't look at it. So those still happen. I still have those today. Well, not today, because today I'm not in a show, but in the shows I do today, for sure.
Right. Now, you mentioned before about John Denver and the Carpenters and Leon Russell. Carole King.
Yeah.
If you had to, put you on the spot and you had to pick one particular artist that you wanted to emulate and that actually motivated you to do what you do today, who would it be?
Oh golly, I'm really bad with favorites. I think it has to do something with my inconsistent personality. I'm a Gemini, so one day it's somebody, the next day it's going to be somebody else. But as you said that, I was thinking back, and I was thinking about when I was a child, and we had an 8-track tape player, and we had very few 8-track tapes. We had Olivia Newton-John, we had Dolly Parton. And then we had Eddie Rabbitt.
Yeah,
and
I
we
remember
had Dan
him.
Fogelberg,
Oh,
and we
yeah.
had the Oak Ridge Boys. And so I would say that whole era of music was really helpful to push me, but it was probably the Grease movie and the soundtrack, because that was
Really?
a musical before it was a movie, but I didn't know that because my family had nothing to do with theater my whole life until I was in high school. I didn't know anything from Camelot or South Pacific or Sound of Music. I had seen the movie, but it wasn't something that was that important to my family. So Grease was the first real, wow, I want to be able to do that that I had.
That was on Broadway, too, I believe.
It was on Broadway before the movie.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. And they added 2 songs that weren't in the play, from what I remember, which is You're the One That I Want.
Yep.
And Hopelessly Devoted to You.
Yeah, and then they took some of them out from the screenplay.
Correct,
For the screenplay. Yeah. So that was the first foray that I had into any sort of dancey musical theater aspect of my life. And I think that did really help me to shape the idea that it was possible to do all those things at one time. I know that sounds silly, but as a child, sometimes you just don't know until you know that it is something that people do, because I had never seen it live on stage until I was a junior high. I think we went to the Children's Theater, and it was a play. And so it wasn't until I actually saw it on the theater screen, wow, that's something I want to do. So Olivia Newton-John was already in my 8-track player. So I think the first single that I ever bought was her, and it was she and another gentleman singing a duet from Xanadu, and I can't remember the name of it.
ELO was the other group that sang with her.
But who was the guy that was...
Oh, yeah.
I can hear his voice.
Right.
But that was the first single I ever bought.
Yeah.
And
Jeff Lynne.
Yes. Yeah. So if I had to really poke back there, that would be definitely an artist that was transitional for me.
Yeah.
Was Olivia Newton-John.
Well, I like to surprise my guests, so I'm going to tell you something that happened to me. And
Good.
I had a dream a couple of days, maybe 3 or 4 days ago, about you, because I was so anxious to interview you. I really, because I'm a music lover. I love music. I wish I had more guests that were music. I had a few, and they were singers in bands, and they were presently performing in the Twin Cities. I had a dream that you were singing "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina," and you were playing Eva Perón.
Now that's a bucket list role right there. I think I might be past the ability to play that role anymore.
Oh my God!
For many reasons, but
you had a standing ovation. I remember the whole deal. It was so realistic, though, Jen. It really was. It was like I woke up and said, I wonder if she ever was in that play. I don't even know.
I wish there was
Patti LuPone was the original, right? Wasn't she?
Yeah.
And sometimes you'd think of, when I heard your voice, maybe you reminded me of her. I don't know.
Well, the beautiful thing about having someone allow us to feel like we want to be better, like Olivia Newton-John, we don't always have that kind of voice. Olivia Newton-John and Dolly Parton have that beautiful, just lilty soprano, light and beautiful and gorgeous and clear and crisp. And I have a little bit more of an Ethel Merman thing. Judy Garland, Ethel Merman, natural placement.
Well, now you just hit another a nerve for me. My husband and I, when he's not happy, and I always had this ability, even when my mom was alive, God rest her soul, to make people laugh. I would imitate Ethel Merman.
Oh my God.
And I can do a couple of bars if you want to hear
I
it.
think we should.
There's no business like show business, like no business I know. Is that good? Okay, I had to throw that in there.
So perfect.
It's
my
getting
God.
worse as I get older, but when I was younger, I was right on, Anyway, everything about it is appealing. She had that kind of, I don't know, great projection in her voice.
Oh my gosh! Well, that's the thing. She and so many singers from her era did not have microphones to catapult their voices over the band. And I have actually met a lot of gentlemen over the years that played in the pit with her when she was touring through here, when she was touring through Minneapolis. Leo Fine is one of them, a gentleman that played the trumpet. And he said it didn't matter how loud he played, you could still hear her over the band.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's not necessarily what people are looking for anymore when it comes to Broadway singers, but it is.
Of course, we've developed good audio systems to pick up the voice.
Exactly.
But another tidbit. Oh my God, you're
electronic music.
You're hitting all my tidbits today.
I'm a tidbit hitter.
Yeah, I love you. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, so Ethel Merman. She appeared on the Judy Garland show with Barbra Streisand at the beginning of Barbara's career, and they were going to do show business, the song.
Sure.
And they both had to stop singing because Ethel was just drowning them out. You have to. It's on YouTube. I would suggest everyone go look at it. It is funny as hell. They were all like just going.
Is that the same episode that they sing "Happy Days Are Here Again"?
Probably.
Stars.
Isn't that that was a pretty version? Yeah.
Oh yeah, their duet, amazing.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, beautiful. It's classic. You can't. It's incomparable to anything you can hear today. Because today. No insult to my young viewers, my young listeners, but auto-tune is kind of taking away that natural sound to me, and everybody kind of sounds the same.
Well, and
right?
Yeah, there's a whole switch of focus, but there are a lot of performers out there that don't perform that way. Mm-hmm. I was just in New Orleans for 9 days, and there was a singer on the street. She was a fabulous clarinetist, and I wish I could recall her name right now, but I can't. Fabulous clarinetist and singer, and she had such a unique style. And it's those unique styles that I think are oftentimes not heard by the mainstream, but there are a lot of us that follow them. Even, I don't like to point out people, but like even Ariana Grande, she's got Olivia Newton-John style voice. She's got that lilty soprano and sweet, clear and crisp sound up there.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I'm sure that in the recording studio they have to do some zhuzhing, but in the general sense of it, her live performances are as strong as what I have heard. As strong as her recorded performances. And so when you look back at Judy and Babs, I mean, they had such different styles, but they also were so similar in the way that they just encapsulated the lyric and they created their own style and stretched and pushed and compressed and pulled the style in their own fashion. That I think that's why, like you said, that particular tune is so iconic because they almost sound like each other sometimes, but they're so different at the same time.
But the interesting thing with that performance, I love interviewing you because you and I are on the same page about music. I love to talk about this stuff. I'm going off on tangerines here, but
when they get to be grapefruits, we're going to have a real problem.
Exactly. No, it's like Barbara was at the beginning of her career. She was like a sprout, and Judy was on the decline at that point. She was starting to, lose it a little bit. Mm-hmm. But you notice she was pushing it. She was able to keep up. And to me, it was kind of like, is this the end of the chapter here for Judy?
Yeah.
When I saw it, because you could see she wanted so badly to keep up with Barbara, and she was able to, but you could see it was a struggle a little bit. She was grabbing her arm, and you got to watch the video.
I've seen it numerous times, and if anybody hasn't seen it, just Google on YouTube or go to YouTube and do Barbra Streisand, Judy Garland, Happy Days, and it will come up. The video will come up.
Exactly.
I was lucky enough at the History Theater in St. Paul, where I work a lot, actually. I love working there. I love it when a theater has a mission that they stick to and that furthers local stories, and that's what the History Theater is all about. Mm-hmm. Stories from Minnesota by Minnesotans or activities that occurred in Minnesota is what they require to have on their stage. So they did a show called Beyond the Rainbow, and they've done it a few times now. The first time they did it, I was hired as the understudy, which I just am so flabbergasted that I got to do it. I think it was 2005. And it was right before I moved to New York. And I had to understudy Jodie Briskey, who was playing Judy, in the Carnegie Hall performance. So they called her role Garland, the elder. And then I had to understudy Nora Long, who was playing Judy, the young girl, from age 4 to age 40. And I had to go on for both of them for 2 weeks apiece.
So you had to practice how to sound older, right?
You had to practice the young Judy and the old Judy. It was fabulous.
Wow.
But we had so much time that we were able to invest in the history and watching the old footage and listening to her decline. And she was so young. She was so young when she passed. And all the things that happened in her life started happening when she was so young. And if we were to look at it now, we'd be like, she was a child actor, just like we see on television child actors that go maybe Rotten Tomatoes for a while, and then maybe they come back, and then they go Rotten Tomatoes, and it's that ebb and flow of popularity and of ability because of what we're putting into our bodies. It was just such an amazing journey to be able to follow that from age 4 all the way up to when she passed, or to the Carnegie Hall performance, which was not long before she passed.
Well, the movie studio she was working for, they were giving her drugs to keep her awake and pushing it. And
then drugs to sleep, and then drugs to get her back on.
Exactly. It was a sad story about her. And Renee Zellweger did a really great job in the movie. I think for somebody who I never thought of as a singer, but. Anyway, so I'm going to move on to something that this is my fascination with you, is I believe your biggest accomplishment thus far has been your appearance on Broadway in Mamma Mia. And wow, Broadway, just the word alone gives me the chills, because I grew up on Broadway. I didn't grow up on Broadway. I wish I did, but I grew up going to see shows. I saw Into the Woods. I saw... I saw the original Grease. I saw Sarava. There were a lot of old shows. I'm a little old, but can you tell me about that experience? Just give it to the audience. Because I can't imagine how you must have felt doing that.
We only got an hour here, Phil. Well. For me, it's hard to talk about that experience without prefacing it with the fact that I took the initiative at a young age, young enough, to go to New York, to test it out, to see if it was a place I could live. I lived there for a couple months. I ended up taking a tour with Troupe America and coming back here and then getting married the next year. So I didn't stay there for very long. I was just there for a couple months, but I loved it. I lived on the Upper West Side. And then in 2001, there was a tour of Mamma Mia that came through, and I was working on this indie musical at that time. And the director said, "You need to be in the show. You need to go to the show because you should be in it." And I said, "Okay." And so I went, and I was like, "Ooh, she's right. It's right for my voice type. It's right for my dance ability, because I'm not a dancer, but I can dance. And it was right for my age of growing into the roles, etc. So that next year I went to New York, and I stayed with some people that I had met here when I worked at the Broadway doing Into the Woods, Christopher Carl. And I stayed with one of my girlfriends, Liana Rita, that I worked with when I did the national tour of Buddy Holly that came out of the Broadway. So 2 experiences that I had here allowed me to go to New York and stay with people from there. So that was wonderful. Those were wonderful opportunities for me, and I took them. And I went and I auditioned for that show, and I don't know, like 6 other shows at that point. And I got called back from a chorus call. It was an open chorus call. I got called back, and I got called back, and I got called back. And they were the nicest people. There were the nicest people behind the counter. One of them was David Grindrod, who's a famous casting director in England. And he, of course, worked with the England company. And then when they came to Broadway, he came and helped to cast the Broadway company. So I had the opportunity to meet all these people, do all these auditions, and I had to fly home. I was only there for 2 weeks. I had to fly home. They called me back again, so I flew back twice for auditions. The last audition I had that year, I was sure I had the role. Tara Rubin was still with her other company, or she was just starting her new company, Tara Rubin Casting. And she had me read with every single person there. She had me read Donna, Rosie, and Tanya with every single other person that was there. I think I was there for 3 or 4 hours reading with people. And then she finally said to me, "Thank you so much. That's all we need for today." And I never heard from them again.
Oh, no.
I never heard from them again. So in 2004, oh golly, I don't remember, 2004, I went down to Chicago with my husband at that time. We were in Milwaukee. We decided to swing down through Chicago and do an audition in Chicago. My husband. Because they were not coming to Minneapolis for this audition for Mamma Mia, for replacements. So I went down there, and they were looking for tour people at that point. So I went down there, had an audition on June 1st, and David Grindrod was behind the counter. He was behind the table. He was the same gentleman that was there in New York when I was there in 2000. And then there were also some other people that I had met on that journey that were there. So he said, "Darling, would you like to come back tomorrow for a callback?" And I said, "I would. Tomorrow is my birthday." And he goes, "It's my birthday too." And I said, "Shut up."
There you go.
Just rude girl from Wisconsin. Shut up. And he said, "No, it's my birthday too." And I said, "I don't know if you remember me, but I auditioned for you, and I saw you quite a few times in 2000. And I'm happy to see you again." And he goes, in New York, and he said, "We'll get there again, darling. We'll get there again." And the next day I went in and I brought a scone and happy birthday plates and happy birthday candle and happy birthday hats. And I lit the candle and I gave the hats to all the other girls that were in the audition room. And I had them come in and sing happy birthday to David Grindrod, because, this is what you do. It's a scone. He's English. And we did, and he was just sweet as can be. And I looked behind him and I said, "Oh, look, somebody brought you balloons for your birthday." And he said, "They're for you, darling." And he handed me balloons for my birthday at my callback. Yeah.
Wow.
It was the sweetest, most wonderful. That's how that company was. That from the very top to the very, I don't even want to say bottom, as you come around the circle, everybody that was in that circle was so wonderful. And I stayed for the day. They took a Polaroid of me at the end of the day, because they did that with the people that they wanted to see. And again, and they took a Polaroid of me, and then they said, "Put on the birthday hat." And I said, "Oh my God, okay." So I put on the birthday hat, and I was like, that was the picture that got me the job, not my headshots, not my resume. That picture that just showed me being a human, a nice person that can sing the shit out of, sorry if I can't say that, sing the stuff that they needed me to sing and hit the notes and needed me to hit and put the emotion in it that they wanted me to give of my own and bring myself to it. That was what they were looking for, was unique individual personalities that were easy to get along with, fun, seemed true and honest and sincere. And I think that's why that company was so great.
So how soon after you took the picture with the happy birthday hat did you get the role?
Well, they offered me the national tour.
Okay.
That fall. And I was going to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival with that indie show that I was talking about.
Right.
And I would have had to leave my director high and dry without her lead actress a week before she was leaving for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. So I had to say to Tara Rubin, "I'm so sorry. If you can wait, I can come out." And she said, "We can't wait." And I said, "I can't leave my director high and dry in Edinburgh without a lead." Right. And she said, "Well, it's really good to know that you have the integrity and loyalty to stick to that. We'll talk with you again."
That impressed her.
It impressed her. Well, and she thought about it. She could have just said, "You're making a really dumb mistake." But she didn't. And I didn't hear from them again. So that next spring, they were doing an audition for the opera that Benny and Bjorn wrote. Katrina? Ooh, I think I'm butchering it. Anyway, I went down and pulled out my legit stuff. And wouldn't you know it, I got a call the next day. And the call the next day was, Tara Rubin had called her associate, Eric Woodall, and had said, "I just saw Jen Burleigh-Bentz. Check and see if she's available," because their triple cover had just given the notice on Broadway. I didn't go for that audition. Katrina. I didn't go for the audition for Mamma Mia, but because it was the same people and they remembered me, I got the job. They said, "Can you be in New York in 18 days?" And I said, I should probably check with my husband first, but I think that's possible. And within 18 days, I had to find a place to live. And I moved to New York, and within a month, I was pussyfooting on Broadway for 5 years, 2 years full-time, and then on and off for 3 years.
You must have rocked the house.
Oh, it was so much fun. It was the best job I ever had. I mean, and I love all my experiences. They're all so different. But when you've done, 2,000 shows of one production, it's just, it sits in your body differently, and it sits in your heart differently.
What theater was that in, by the way?
The Winter Garden.
Yes.
It started in the Winter Garden, then it went to the Broadhurst, and the last show that I had in there was still in the Winter Garden. It was right before they moved to the Broadhurst.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Goodness.
It was fabulous. And I got to meet so many people because that show rotated leads like you wouldn't believe. We had 6 Donnas my first year, 6 contracted Donnas. Each time a new Donna came on, we would have to learn their individual track. So we'd have to relearn the track because they would put their own spin on it. It was so much fun. It was so much fun.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
That must have been the highlight of your life. It must have been.
I learned a lot from a lot of different people.
Wow. Now, the next question, I'm not sure it's going to be Mamma Mia, but you can answer if it is. What was the most challenging stage role you performed in, and why was that? I'm going to gather it's not going to be Mamma Mia just because your voice is, that's kind of easy to sing with your voice, I'm just saying. What was the most challenging for you, I would say?
I'm always brought back to the more recent things, and I'm sure if I thought back further, I'd probably be able to. Actually, I can meld 2 of them together. Mm-hmm. When I was a sophomore in college, I did Skin of Their Teeth, and I played the Gypsy Woman. That was the name of the character, and my director wanted me bent over at the waist. The physicality that he wanted from me was so foreign for me, standing and preening, because that's what you do when you're in the theme parks. You stand and preen, and you point your toes, and you. So it was a real challenge for me to continually inhabit the body of someone who was infirmed. It didn't mean she was 70; it just meant that she had lived a hard life. And just recently, in the spring, I did a show up at Duluth Playhouse at the North Shore Theater in Duluth, which I also adore working at. Mm-hmm. And I could say that just because I want to work there again, but I love it up there. It's like our own little ocean, and there's just a zen about that place and the people there. It's just different. There's something special about it. Regardless, I did Into the Woods up there, and I played the witch, and I've understudied the witch a couple of times, but I've never been able to take the role as my own. And the music director up there and the director allowed me to create a character that was so challenging to me to ride the fine line of someone who was quite terrible to the people who surrounded her, but still had such love and a capacity for love in her heart that you could find something good about her, or at least find something to find familiar or similar to your own self. And the first act was me being the Gypsy Woman. I mean, it was me allowing myself to have the infirmed body that the witch can have, doesn't have to, but can. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that was such a wonderful challenge to revisit and to bring in to my now adult life. And the music is it's really difficult and fantabulous. It is. And it's very easy to sit in a wonderful production like Bernadette Peters playing that role, or Vanessa Williams playing that role. Fabulous performers, fabulous singers. And I was able to take the challenge to make it my own and to mine those lyrics and find those moments that I'd never seen anybody else find. I don't know if the audience saw me find them, but I found them in my heart and in my head and in my ability or inability sometimes to sing them with technical grace, because there's so much raw emotion that can be left on that stage. And, it was a challenge that I gladly accepted, not knowing how much it would affect me. And now I just felt like I grew years worth just from that one experience and that one opportunity. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Other than that Duluth theater, were there any venues that in the Twin Cities area that you took a liking to, that you felt comfortable in your own skin, like the Broadway maybe, or
I every theater in our community, first of all, we're so lucky to have so many amazing theaters in our community.
We do.
Whether they are union or non-union, there is such a wealth of talent and of space here that we have. I think we have more theater per capita than either LA or Chicago. It's like one or the other. But it goes like New York, Chicago, us, or New York, LA, us, or something like that, because we have so much. Now, if we're talking professional, quote-unquote, theater, it's different. But I used to work at the Broadway a lot. That was in the early 2000s. I was there for four or five different shows in as many years. And then the creative changed over, and I haven't worked there in a long time. But it was a wonderful place to work then, and I'm sure it still is now. They have less ability to produce their own shows now than they used to. So that makes a difference. I loved being at the Guthrie. I understudied a few shows there, and then I did Music Man there. It's a completely different world. It's the world of the Guthrie. It's lights, it's spectacle, it's fabulous people, because they're from, they're here. And they're bringing in people from out of town, which is lovely. I was at the Chanhassen doing Mamma Mia, of course, doing Mamma Mia for a summer, and I found myself in an amazing family of people that just had so much heart and so much love.
I love that space. It's beautiful.
It's such a family-oriented place. It's really, again, when we talk about places being different from each other, they're all wonderful and different, and none of them are better than the other. They might have bigger budgets, but they're all so lovely and different. I would say that of all the places that I have been able to work, I've worked at the History Theater the most, and I think that one of the reasons why that has such a solid place in my heart, if I were to say, is there any theater in your life that you felt most connected to, it would be that theater, even with, the Winter Garden, because that was fabulous. But the History Theater, with their mission and the way that they have treated their people over the years, the way that I've been able to meet World War II veterans that lived through the shows that we recreated there. The Hormel girls, this traveling saleswomen from the 50s. I met Hormel girls that traveled in the 50s to all these different cities, and they performed marching band, and they went door to door and sold Spam, and, did what the men couldn't do because of the war. And it's been the most spectacular opportunity to not only be part of theater, but part of reimagining our history and also bringing to light subjects like Servant's Christmas this last year, which has a gal from the Jewish community coming and working for a Caucasian family undercover, and and how that's brought out in their production, and how it's portrayed in their productions is always so thoughtfully and tastefully carried. We just did the Defeat of Jesse James there, with Jan Poling and Jeffrey Hatcher's show, which was in Rob Alhai. Amazing, fun, crazy concert. And it could go so many different ways. And there was so much care and love put into it that we couldn't have gone wrong. And we didn't. It was really well received.
Wow.
But that's why I love working there, is that consistent care and thought.
Yeah, well, you've been almost every venue that we have available in the Twin Cities. So anybody out there listening, you have to see her. It doesn't matter what venue it is. Just go and see Jen Burleigh-Bentz. Anyway, so the last question I have for you before we go into that, the
speed round,
the lightning round. I like to call the shift. but I'll explain why it's called that later. If of all the roles in the world that there've ever been, if you had to pick one that you haven't done yet and you would like to take a crack at it, what role would that be?
Ooh, wow.
It's a tough question, huh?
I mean, Mama Rose is one that I've always thought would be a real challenge to play in Gypsy. There's an opportunity coming up that hopefully I'm not too old for yet. I would really be interested in playing Diana in Next to Normal. I would be interested in being in Sunset Boulevard. I mean, there are so many options and so many amazing roles. I would love to be in Little Night Music and sing. I can't remember that character's name right now. It's completely out of my head, but
yeah.
Send in the Clowns, that character.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I'm there yet age-wise, but I think I am. And so there are just some real great broads out there that I would love to be able to have the opportunity to portray on stage.
I thought you would say Evita, because of my dream.
Evita is a role that is crazy and wonderful and huge and such a challenge, and I would love that challenge. However, if we're talking ethnically now, that's not something that I would probably feel comfortable taking. And I don't know that I could play the young Evita. So,
Oh, stop. You look fabulous.
Thanks.
Can you, before we get to the shift, can you tell the listeners about some of the performances you have coming up in the future? Maybe they'd want to see you.
Yeah, I'm so lucky to be able to be part of a jazz orchestra. There's Star of the North Jazz Orchestra that we perform every month, the fourth Tuesday of every month at Beast Barbecue in Northeast, right across from Eli's. If anybody's familiar with Eli's, it's on Hennepin after Hennepin curves to the east.
Would that be on your website too?
It'll be on the information's on the website. It's a free show. It's downstairs in the belly of the beast, as it were, and it's an 18-piece orchestra, an 18-piece jazz orchestra, and we perform for 2 hours. It's a free show. The food is fabulous. The drinks are great. There's not a ton of seating, but usually we can fit everybody in who comes down, and it's a Tuesday night, so it's early enough for a school night, but it helps us to bring people to Beast to help zhuzh their night where they're not as busy, and bring new people to Beast so that they continue to go back there and patronize that wonderful business. Mm-hmm. Another place that I'm really fortunate to be able to work is at the Metronome Brewing Company, and that's in Lowertown, St. Paul, right across from the CHS Stadium. And Metronome opened officially last year in June, but they've been in town for about a year and a half now. And Metronome is run by Bill Eddins and Matt. I'm going to blank on his last name right now. I can see it. And they...
It happens all the time.
I'm actually going to see them after this because I'm going to work as one of their ambassadors at an event. But Metronome Brewing takes the proceeds that they make above what their costs are, and they put percentage of that proceed back into education for students in our metro area that cannot afford music education. So music lessons for students, rentals in the junior high or the high school that the families just wouldn't be able to afford. So you'd see kids leaving the music school, leaving their ability to be able to perform and to articulate their feelings through music because of $60 a month, which is a lot to a lot of us, but $60 a month for a rental instrument. Or they find places that will donate those instruments to the schools. So they've got this fabulous mission, and they've got live music there all the time. And on Sunday nights, the last Sunday night of every month, I do a JBB and Friends cabaret. So last month, I had 5 gals from SPCPA, the Performing Arts School in St. Paul, and they came and performed with me downstairs in Fingal's Cave, which is almost like a speakeasy feel with a lovely grand piano. And it's $10, and we perform at 6:30, and it's $10 to get in, but it's just an amazing experience. This month, on the 24th of September, I'm bringing back the girls from Disenchanted, the musical, which is a musical about princesses who are pissed off at Disney for turning them into Barbie dolls. That's basically the show. And
that sounds cute.
It's cute and it's fantabulous. Like there are moments where you are about to fall off your chair and going, did they just say that? They did just say that. Okay. At Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Pocahontas, Mulan, the Frog Princess. There are so many that are shown in that group. So there are 6 of us that will be performing down there, plus Anna Murphy on piano. And we'll be performing most of the songs from the show, but not all of them. And we haven't done that show in this city since 2013, so it's our 10-year reunion.
Wow. Well, I'm gonna give you all the information at the end of the show, where your website, where they can go to find your upcoming performances and venues and all that yada yada good stuff, I call it. Anyway, so now we have come to the part of the show I like to call the shift. Don't forget to say the F, because otherwise we have problems. Where I shift the questioning away from your personal performing career, singing career, however you want to call it, because you do more than just sing, you're a performer, and to your opinions on current events. So this is, and as of just like a few minutes ago, actually, it was the news just, breaking news that Hunter Biden was indicted for claiming that he wasn't on drugs when he signed for a gun permit, to get a gun. And I'm sure all the people on the other side of the aisle are thrilled about that, because, what's happening on the other side, you have to forget about that, even though that's so much worse about our democracy. But
the people who are actually in power as opposed to their children. Yeah. Yeah,
because exactly. Hunter Biden is not running for president.
No, and he never was able to make any calls on anything. However, he is somebody who told a lie, and he is someone who did it in a Felonic way. Felonious. Is that a word? Way? Felonious way?
Is that the way? I don't know.
I mean, that... And they should get to the bottom of it.
You're like me. If you did the crime, do the time. I don't care what party you're in. Yeah. But for some reason, on the other side, they want to forgive everything.
Of course. Of course.
So it's not a two-way street here. It seems to be a blinders kind of thing. But also, as of the recording of this show, House Republicans are opening an impeachment inquiry on President Biden. Mm-hmm. They allege that the president's son Hunter. Not only he's already been indicted for the gun thing, but they're saying that he profited in business dealings with foreign entities, but without any evidence of any connection to the president himself. And also that his Justice Department is interfering in the investigations of Hunter Biden. Mm-hmm. The special counsel, David Weiss, denies those claims. Says, no, that's BS. Right. Do you believe this impeachment inquiry, I love that word, will backfire on them or continue to fuel the right-wing base that he already has?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like it doesn't matter what happens anymore. Whether there are facts that come out, people listen to their own news station. They listen to the people who think like them.
An echo chamber.
Echo chamber. And I can't say that I can't be a hypocrite and say I don't do the same. I will turn my radio to a station where I know they're not saying things that I agree with, but it's hard for me to listen for more than a half an hour. Mm-hmm. It really is. Every once in a while, there's a moderate that talks that I can listen to and not feel like it's just somebody with blinders on. But I wonder how much I walk around with blinders on myself, which is good. I think we should all wonder that. At the same time, I think it's important for everyone to look at our country and the way that the treatment of non-factual information is causing such a decay in relationships from neighbor to neighbor. I mean, I'm sure that in the past there have been situations, wars, that have been very similar in the way that they cause decay between people. But this seems to cause decay between everyone. The far right, the middle right, the middle right, the moderate lefts, the middle lefts, the left lefts. Everyone is finding fault. And no one seems to be able to have a central vein or artery to everyone that everyone will hear anymore. And yeah, it's the internet. We will never get back to the place where we only have 4 channels to watch unless we're in a country where there's a dictatorship and all of our free press has been silenced.
Yeah.
You know,
we used to have Walter Cronkite back in the day, and when
Yeah.
when he read the news to you, you believed it.
You believed it.
And everybody was on the same page.
Yeah, and if something got said that wasn't true, it was brought up and he was brought down, and he had to say this wasn't actual fact.
Right. Are you familiar with the fairness doctrine? Do you know what that is? Okay, so it was a law that was in place that was revoked during the Reagan administration that said if you have a show, a news show or a program or a radio show, whatever, you had to have both sides of the coin on the show. You had to have both views.
Interesting.
It couldn't be just one-sided. I think that's why it was so divided, because people are in their echo chambers, they're watching one show, and if you don't watch that show and they say, did you hear about Hunter Biden? We're going to say, Hunter Biden, but what about, the ex-president, twice impeached? Oh, what happened with him? Nobody seems to know the truth.
Yeah.
And there's a happy medium somewhere, but we're not finding it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're right. I mean, the Fairness Act was something that definitely would have destroyed a lot of the opportunity to give people both sides on television. But of course, now with the internet, there are no laws for the internet.
Yeah.
There's nothing really.
That's where you have propaganda like going berserk.
Yeah.
I mean, people believe in the craziest. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene believed that Italian space lasers were hitting California, and that's why we have the fire. I mean, I can't even make this up, but
right?
It's crazy.
And you can buy bots. You can go onto Instagram and buy bots that will like all of your stuff and share all of your stuff to all the people who look at that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So you can buy indiscretion.
Yeah,
you can buy non-facts and send them out to everyone.
Yeah.
It's amazing what money can do.
I don't want to say her name because she irritated me, but she was in the Trump administration and she came up with the term alternative facts.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, there's no such thing. That's an oxymoron. You can't have alternative. It's either a fact or it's not.
It's either fact or it's not.
It is. Anyway, so also breaking, all this breaking news. I feel like CNN. Over 5,000 people are feared dead and thousands more missing in a catastrophic flood in the North African nation of Libya. Do you feel the world will ever finally come together and do something and take climate change more seriously before more people die? What is your opinion about that?
I don't know. I mean, once again, we're seeing countries back off and then move forward and then back off and move forward depending on what partisan side they're on.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's terrible.
And I just don't, I personally don't see how anyone could say that there's not fact. There's not fact, because there is actual fact. I can hear people say the world has gone in cycles over the years. There have been years where there's been terrible droughts. There have been years where, but I would then say, I would ask them to go back and look in their history books and say, was that in the entire world? Or was that in a specific area? Was that the whole world? Because we're in the whole world area right now. We're in everybody. Yeah. And I think as we continue to vacillate between I'm partisan or I'm for the world, we are the world. I mean, come on, right?
We are the children.
Yes. We're the ones that make a better life. We're the ones that make it better. And if we don't start making it better, how is it going to get better? So yeah, I wonder about that, and if it will change at all, and when it will change. I hope it will. Yeah,
it has to change because, look, Florida, hurricanes destroying the state, the red tide in Florida, killing all the fish and the coral, and
Hawaii, the fires.
The fires in California.
Canada
with
the fires. Louisiana with the fires.
Hawaii with the fires.
Yeah.
You can go on Maui. Remember what happened with Maui?
Well, yeah,
just the flash fires are now occurring.
In Hawaii and in Louisiana, those are typically extremely humid and wet areas.
Not anymore, yeah.
Nope. And so, it's quote unquote gradually happened.
Yeah.
And this is my prediction. I predict that we will see a huge influx of people with a lot of money in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have to leave the coast.
They got to
find
leave.
some place that they are comfortable, so they will build and buy and build and buy, and we'll see the similar things happening here that have happened in Seattle, and San Francisco and LA, where you can't afford to live anymore because they're being bought up by all the people who want to charge $5,000 for a studio apartment.
And there's some places that, some states that you can't even get insurance on your home.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Anyway, but climate change is real, people. Don't listen to alternative facts, because it's not. It's all about, again, it's money. The oil companies want to make more money, and if you don't drill, baby, drill, they're not going to make as much money. So and they're disregarding everything that's going on around them. It's almost like they're in a bubble, and money is more important to them. Unfortunately, we have one Earth. That's it, just one Earth. And when that's gone, and the good thing, though, the last thing about this, the good thing is the young people are the ones that are coming out in droves voting for the DFL and the Democrats, because they see their future is in jeopardy.
Yeah, they see somebody actually willing to make some movement
and
try to get back into what we were doing before instead of being pulled out of it by the last administration.
Yeah. Thank God for the young people. The last question I have is, this is an interesting one. I just want your opinion on it. Now, I'm a gay man, and I always
What?
Scandal.
We met at a gay pride.
Yeah, right. You're right. I felt it necessary to talk about LGBT issues on every show. I always feel it's an important thing because we don't get it out there enough. There's no shows on TV or anything about promoting our issues or understanding about our community.
Yeah.
So the most current Pew Research poll listed the top 10 most LGBTQ-friendly countries in the world, and they are, now this is from 10 to 1, from 10th to 1st, New Zealand, Great Britain, Ireland, Denmark, Spain, Canada, Sweden, Norway, the Netherlands, and number 1 in the world is Iceland.
Interesting.
Okay? Now, listen to what I'm going to say. So far, we haven't heard anything about the country we are living in right now. Okay. Also, in a recent Forbes article of the safest countries for LGBTQ people in the world to travel to, from 10th to 1st are the UK, Belgium, Denmark, Spain, Portugal, Norway, Malta, the Netherlands, Sweden, and number 1 in the world is Canada, our neighbor to the north.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Notice how many countries appear on both of those lists, right? So here's my question to you. In your opinion, why would you say that the United States does not appear on either of those lists? Is there something that I don't know about what's going on in this country that we can't even be on a list where people are safe?
I think there is something going on. However, I agree with you. I'm in agreement with you. I think that that's silly and ridiculous. But then we need to look at the size of our country. And if they were to split it up and say state by state, I think that you'd see states that might be similar sizes to some of those countries that would say per capita are safe, are LGBTQ friendly, but not just friendly, but like progressive. I think that there would be states. But the fact that we border from state to state with different government control and different ideologies that seem to take over the entire state, even though they don't, there are people of every single kind that live in those states, and probably, how many different ethnicities and cultures and backgrounds, but they're not being heard at the percentage to change the government. Yeah,
we have a federalist society. I mean, other countries, they're one country. When they vote, they vote as a unit. The United States does everything by state. Even the way you vote depends on the state you live in, or how many guns you could own depends on the state, or anything is all done by state. And sometimes that can be a detriment, I think, to, especially the LGBTQ community. Because what if I'm traveling to one of those states and,
Right.
Something happens and I'm not recognized there or something, I mean.
It's unfathomable to me.
Yeah.
That that there are so many things that we as a country are still talking about.
Yeah. And you remember even before marriage passed in the United States, but it was the Supreme Court, the old Supreme Court before the new one.
Right.
The sicko people that are there now that are just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Tell me how you really feel.
Oh my God, I can't stand them. I even have a shirt that says "Abort the Supreme Court." I am so over them. I can't. Women are being marginalized. African Americans are being. They can't even. I mean,
all immigrants are being marginalized.
It's terrible.
The only people that seem to be allowed to have a voice are people that either support white men, or that are white men and old. And I don't mean that every white man shouldn't be supported.
Yeah, I'm white.
But there are there are still women looking to the white man to make the decisions about her body because he should know better.
No.
He would know better than her because she's got a monthly cycle and she might go cuckoo. That interesting idea to me. I had a family member tell me that they didn't vote for Hillary, even though Hillary, they felt more in tune with her ideas because they didn't like the sound of her voice. And I thought, I wonder how many men in power, going for power, have not been voted for because of the sound of their voice.
Yeah.
I would say not a huge percentage.
Yeah.
How many women?
Yeah. Donald Trump's voice irks me, but that's another show in itself.
Oh, well, sure.
Anyway.
Especially when you hear it every single day, denigrating every single person that doesn't agree with them.
It's like nails on a chalkboard for me, anyway. But unfortunately, we've come to the end of the Downright Upright show today. So thank you so much, Jen, for being a guest on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my God, you were amazing. And I would totally encourage everyone listening to go onto her website, and I'm going to repeat it again, maybe 3 or 4 times. It's www. I can never say that. www.jenburleigh-bentz, B-E-N-T-Z. Burleigh is spelled B-U-R-L-E-I-G-H, and there'll be a little blurb next to the podcast with the information that's in written form, so they could see it better.
Sure.
Again, it's jenburleigh-bentz.com, and go there and see Jen perform live, because you will never believe it. I didn't believe it, and you have an amazing voice and presence, and your soul is bright, and I just love meeting you. I hope that we can get together again and maybe do this or hang out. Or,
yes. I'm so glad we've had this time together.
Just to have a laugh and sing a song. My voice is
I can't remember all the words.
Once we get... Yeah, is the time we have to say
so long.
Pull your ear. Bye-bye. And to our listeners, thank you for spending time with us today on the Downright Upright show. Please stay tuned for more shows, because we have a whole bunch in the pipeline in the future. And this is your host, Philip Anthony, saying ciao for now.